Gentleman from Oklahoma seek recognition.
Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I've listened very carefully and for the most part quietly to the debate in our hearings and certainly today. And I think this is a case where the record would show that the rhetoric really doesn't match the reality. If we had testimony in this committee that 70% of the suits filed against any sitting president in recent years have actually been filed by my friends on the other side of the aisle. So if it's a political stunt and we look at it in percentage terms, I guess that you were engaged in political stunt. I'm not suggesting that you were. I would actually suggest you were probably pretty sincere, felt pretty strongly about it, and you thought this was the appropriate forum. But this has been a tool that's been used much more often by Democrats than by Republicans. Second, my friends love to quote statistics on impeachment. I know something about polling. I used to do that for a living. And I can assure you, and I can produce the numbers, that will actually show a higher percentage of Democrats during the Bush years thought that President Bush ought to be impeached than Republicans do today. So, again, I wouldn't suggest that was the motive driving Democrats to take the positions that they did in Congress, whether they were lawsuits or principled opposition. That's just not an unusual statistics in a time of high political polarization. So to mischaracterize an entire political party, by selective use of polling is something that any of us could do any day we wanted to. I hear a lot of talk about impeachment, but I have to confess I hear it more from my friends on the other side of the aisle than I do from friends on my side of the aisle. I don't know of a single article of impeachment that's been filed. I've seen this issue raised again and again and again because it's politically helpful to suggest this is what they really want to do or this is the first step toward going that way. I just don't see anybody on our side suggesting that.
Will the gentleman yield?
I'm not going to yield until I finish my statement, okay. But then I certainly will yield to my friend. Again, I would just suggest we have a profound difference with the president over the exercise of executive power. And as has been suggested multiple times here, we have a variety of tools in which to address that. Tools, by the way, that my friends have used themselves when they were in the majority. One of those tools would be the appropriations process where I sit, but it's a pretty heavy-handed tool. It's got a lot of collateral damage associated with it. I'm not interested in stopping the functioning of government. I'm not interested in slashing the White House operational accounts of personnel. We had one of our folks that appeared before us, one of our expert witnesses says, well, you have the power of appointment. Well, not really on our side of the Congress. We don't do confirmations over here. We've got the ultimate power of impeachment. None of us are suggesting that's appropriate in this case. I really don't think it is. And finally, we could go to an impartial tribunal and say, this is where we think the president has reached beyond his authority, and we think we have standing. I guess that's a question you get to decide as a court. We think this, but that's a question. It seems to me it's a responsible thing to do when you have a difference of opinion. It's not an irresponsible thing. It's actually more targeted. It's less, damaging to those that are not there. And at some point, you hopefully get a resolution. But again, when it's a tool that my friends on their side have thought was appropriate on many, many occasions against Republican presidents, I'm shocked that they now think it's inappropriate in this case. Again, I think we're trying to get to a solution. We may not like the outcome of the lawsuit. As I've said on many occasions, I don't particularly relish going to court. I think there's lots of obstacles. I think there should be lots of obstacles to that. I think it's always expensive. I think it's always unpredictable. I think even if you win, there are sometimes unpredictable consequences in a situation like this. But, again, we have a different point of view. We're seeking a resolution. We think we're doing it in an appropriate way. And so with that, again, I don't think this talk of impeachment makes a lot of sense. I don't think, because I don't know anybody who's proposing it. I don't think that this talk of legislative overreach, because we're not using a lot of the legislative tools that we have. With that, I certainly would extend.
And I appreciate it. If the gentleman wants to know why people on our side are concerned about this whole impeachment issue, it's not just the Sarah Palins of the world. I quote: President Obama is begging to be impeached. Representative Stockman. quote, if the House had an impeachment vote, it would impeach the President. Representative Flores. Quote, the President has committed impeachable offenses. Impeachment is important. Michelle Bachmann. Our colleague here, Mr. Burgess, Obama impeachment needs to happen. Quote, we need to bring impeachment hearings immediately before the House of Representatives. Representative Steve King. He leaves Congress no option but to impeach him.
I'll allow my friend to continue, but...
I mean, I could go on and on and on. These are members of Europe,
by the way,
Republican
when
Conference.
President Bush was here, I could have gone on and on and on.
Well, Nancy Pelosi, when President Bush was took impeachment off the table.
Well, that's fine. Have you seen Speaker Boehner put it on the table?
No, but I haven't seen.
Have you seen him put it on the table?
Well,
Well, actually, I have, but I don't see that at all.
Well,
and suggesting that, you know, look, believe me, there are 435 people up here. I can find my share of things people say that I disagree with, or
I
can
could
take
go on
out
if
of
you want.
context
Yeah.
or whatever. And all I'm suggesting is, you know, we could have said the same thing from 2001 to 2009. But this is, nobody's talking about impeachment. Nobody is trying to use tools that frankly don't match. We're trying to go get a legitimate question and difference of opinion between the branches solved in what we think is an appropriate form. So I think, you know, again, suggesting that reminding that my friends have done this repeatedly themselves, that they thought that was legitimate then, you know, might suggest that we're not the ones playing political stunts here. I think, you know, I think my friend Ms. Fox put it pretty well. You know, our motives here are serious. I take this step, I got to tell you, with some trepidation. It's just not what I prefer to do. And I've demonstrated, I think, on a number of occasions, I've worked with my friends on the other side of the aisle. I can work with the President of the United States. I've publicly expressed my gratitude to the President on a couple of occasions for the wonderful job he did in tornado relief when my hometown was damaged. So, again, this isn't anything personal with me, quite the opposite. I wish we weren't here, but we are. And I'd rather get the thing solved or dealt with, and my friends may be perfectly right. People may say, you know, I don't know as much as my good friend Mr. Hastings does about the law. They may say, no standing. Fair enough. They may say standing, but no, you know, just we don't agree with you. And my own instinct is courts are always very reluctant to be drawn into these kind of things. I think that's pretty consistent history. But, you know, we're driven to this point because we really do think that the overreach has been repeated and egregious. And we've tried other methods and we've talked about it, but this is where we're at. But I think, you know, maybe we'll get a resolution and we'll learn something, and perhaps the appropriate boundaries of power will be, you know, more sharply defined, or perhaps we'll learn, well, maybe we should use the appropriations process. Maybe we should use, you know, maybe the other tools are more appropriate. But I think, you know, it's a question worth asking. I think it's asked in good faith, and, you know, I don't think it's, you know, done in any way other than to get clarification and hopefully resolution. So with that, Mr. Chairman, you've been very generous. I'll yield back my time. Thank you.
Gentleman yields back his time.